Filet Mignon comes from the Tenderloin. All right, I'm gonna show you how to clean it up, show you how to get steaks, talk about a Chateaubriand. Love a tenderloin. All right, tenderloin, here we go. So you can see this piece right here, this heel, kind of sits towards the back of the hip, right? So this guy's gonna sit underneath the bone where the New York strip is, a sirloin area. It's just a big old lazy muscle, that's why it's tender. It doesn't do much, it's just hanging out back there. Doesn't really have a job, that's why it stays tender, okay? So I'll show you how to break it down. And you're being very careful because this is so tender that if you're not careful what you're doing, you can actually tear the meat itself. All right, so I kind of peeled off some of the stretchy, sinewy, good looking stuff right here. And took my knife and barely kind of ran along there and pulled this chain off, okay? It sits over here. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. Now, the most important part of doing this at home and butchering your own tenderloin is how well you make your cut, okay? Because it's so tender, it's gonna show the movement of the knife. And for me, how I test myself and how well I cut is how smooth that muscle looks after I take that skin off, okay? So challenge yourself at home. Boom, pointing my knife up. Look at that, baby. Woo! Not my first time. All right, and then I'll show you when we're all done, different pieces, and we'll break it down. All right, so I took off this chain. I'll show you what we can do with this later. This is a labor of love, but there's a bunch of really good little meaty bits on there that you can use for a bunch of different things. Okay, we'll get into that. Here is my T-loin. Now, some butchers at the shop will leave this heel. I don't know what the technical term for this piece of muscle is, but they like to leave that on and kind of tie up that steak right there. Myself, I like to take that one off and I turn that into little, either one steak or I turn into little cutlets, otherwise known in the French classic world of tournedos of beef. I'll show you that real quick. Okay, boom. Look at those babies. Nice little medallions, thin, pan-sear. Classic French stuff right there. All right, Chateaubriand, you're gonna go to the expensive steakhouse and you're gonna order the Chateaubriand. What is that? That is the center cut where the muscle is the same all the way through before it dissipates on the heel side and the tail side. Boom, center cut, right? Depending on how big an animal it is, it's probably gonna be in the 1.5, maybe 2 pound range. Our animals are about the same size all the time. That's the quality and the consistency that we get from Pure Country. There you go, that is your Chateaubriand. Otherwise, a center cut Filet Mignon roast, okay? Steaks off of that, of course. Boom, on one side, steak, other side, steak, still all luscious tenderloin. I'm gonna turn that into steaks too. There you go, that's a T-loin. Almost forgot to tell you about the chain, okay? All these nice little steaks, all these little medallions, all these little bits right here is Evan's favorite, known as the steak tips, steak bites, all good stuff. So, a little bit of a labor of love here, but take your time and don't just throw this away. There's a lot of places that just throw this stuff away. There's so much good meat on here, right? Takes a little bit of time to clean it all up, getting rid of that sinew and that fat that's undesirable. Okay, but look at that. Boom, right? You can turn that into steak tartare. You can turn that into little sauteed steak bites. Boom, kebab meat, all that stuff. You got tons of this stuff in the chain, so just take your time and clean all that up. It's not very hard. Okay. As you can see, look at all that good meat. So much good meat on there. Just gonna wiggle my knife, almost like I'm cleaning up my flat iron. Sliding your knife underneath that sinew. Okay, that's all good stuff. There's some fat on there and people are like, oh, is that good fat? If it's squishy and it's not connective tissue, it's good fat, right? It's gonna be flavorful, it's gonna be edible, it's gonna be delicious. Take your time. Clean up that chain. You got tons more yield if you do that at home.